Hello, sweet viewer or listener. How are you? Welcome to the reboot of A Brit, a Brat in a 25-year gap with me, Cecilia Capehart Bullen, and my husband, Matthew Bullen.
Her husband, Matt Bullen, sitting here, grinning, not looking at either her or the camera, trying to get my teeth showing. Look at me, grinning like a primate. Welcome back. We're sorry we've been away so long. It was basically work and personal things that took all our attention, and they say never apologize, never explain, but that's the truth. And we're back with a reboot. And as we promised, we said we'd make the next episode a video episode. So here we are.
Yeah, this is what we look like and sound like. And today we're talking about posh things and things we found posh as children, which I think is a really funny idea that Matt had, and did a Facebook post about it too.
Yeah.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, something that I thought was really, maybe not posh, but really cool when I was a kid, because I'm born in the 90s, was to have a MySpace page, which I never did, but one of my sisters did, and that was like the coolest of the cool. And you got to choose your music that played when you went on the page, and your friends, and it was like, you know.
What's that you say, Grandma? MySpace?
Yeah, MySpace, yeah.
Before we delve into that,
Not
we
my
should say,
face.
yeah, we should recap that this is, in one sentence, this is really a podcast about what it's really like being in an age gap marriage, because not to ask a lady her age, but there is a 25-year difference in age between us, and I think it's obvious which way around that goes. But
I hope.
And we're recording this a day or two after Thanksgiving, so we're going to get into some holidays related things as well.
Yeah.
But we thought the the topic that I asked for contributions on was things you considered posh when you were a child, or that you still consider posh even if they're very trivial or specific or irrational. And for you it was MySpace. The one I said, just to get us to get my perspective on this, was when I went to a hotel and instead of having slabs of butter, they had curls. There's one of those little pieces of cutlery that you can that you use to make little curls, circles of butter, and they used to put those in a little pyramid. And honestly, Cece, I thought, I've arrived.
That's my life. Yeah.
That's it.
That's what I want.
But yeah, progress and social class stops there. So that's what I can say. But
and
back
so
to
they were
MySpace.
little curls.
Yeah,
they were.
yeah.
So how were they preserved?
They
They
were
were put on the food as curls of butter.
No, they were put on a saucer for you to then, put your
Dish
knife
out
in
yourself,
and
yeah.
onto toast. But they just came out into little,
yeah.
like little miniature tidal waves coming on
Right.
themselves.
Well, that makes me think of something else posh, which I've not really actually experienced myself. But when you stay at a nice hotel, when they fold your towels like animals, swans,
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah.
things like that. I can't think of another one besides a swan.
They do it
but
with the toilet paper too.
Yeah.
Some places. Or maybe it's
I
me
hope
who does
not.
that.
Other cute posh things. Well, for me, it was cable TV. Anyone that had a TV in their car, or a GPS in their car. I had a friend whose dad had a Beamer, BMW, and it was he had one of those GPSs before anybody else did.
Yeah.
And of course, they were oftentimes kind of inaccurate because they didn't update the way phones do now. So, we'd be trying to drive to New York City, and then it would be, we wouldn't know all the new roads or anything like that. But it was very cool. It was very cool.
Yeah.
Just the robotic voice telling you where to go was very posh and very cool.
Yeah, it was very space age, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You see, for us,
2001.
we weren't as advanced because I'm older than you. When they invented this device that when you whistle, it was put on your keychain, and when you whistled, it would beep. So if you lost your keys down the back of the sofa or something, you could locate them.
That's really smart.
And we thought, that's it.
That's as good as we're gonna, as we're gonna go.
Oh, forget your, flawless vaccines for COVID. That was it, as far as progress went. But the reason we thought we'd start with this topic is that age comes into it a lot. For example, a couple of my friends and a few listeners contributed to this. And I know that my friend Steve and another friend Heidi, who are maybe not as decrepit as I am, but they're nearer my age than yours. And Steve said that he considers getting newspapers delivered to his hotel room. He still considers that very posh. And Heidi said she loved seeing the embossed sand that was embedded in the glass of ashtrays that you got in hotels and restaurants. They would do these little patterns.
There
now,
were
of course,
no ashtrays.
no ashtrays. when
No
you were growing up.
ashtrays and as a former smoker, it offends me.
Well, she said proudly.
But it just seems like, if you're gonna sell them, have an ashtray out. But clearly they stopped making that a priority, or there weren't enough people smoking. I don't know what it was.
Well,
but
when I was a kid, as I'm not the first person to have pointed this out, smoking was such an everyday thing that you could get at Christmas a chocolate smoker's kit that had inside a chocolate, cigar cutter, chocolate cigar lighter, chocolate cigar, and then you'd wash it down with a can of shandy, which was at over 1% beer. And they sold those at newsagents, which are British version of newsstands, or 7-Elevens. They used to sell those quite happily to kids with something emblazoned on the side, like, contains Badger beer, real Badger. That was a South Coast make of beer in England.
it must have make you feel like really cool.
Of course. And
Yeah.
when they had candy sticks, when they used to be called sweet cigarettes, they used to have a little bit of pink food coloring at the end to make it look like a lit cigarette.
Oh, I've seen those for sure.
You see, your husband,
And
don't
I didn't. Yeah. Well, see, Matt famously has never smoked.
Never puffed a cigarette.
Yeah, and I used to smoke every single day cigarettes. I liked Marlboro Reds, called Cowboy Killers, because they were the cheapest you could get.
Yeah, because tell the ladies and gentlemen and others, we are not, we're attuned to any and all genders who wish to watch and listen.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But tell the ladies and gentlemen and everyone watching and listening where you come from.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
You don't come from around these parts.
No,
We're in Seattle
we live
right
in
now.
Seattle now,
Yeah.
and it's a lovely city.
Yeah.
And I was born in DC, and I was raised outside of DC in Virginia. And Virginia is like kind of one of the biggest producers of tobacco and cigarettes. And so you can get tobacco and cigarettes very cheaply. I used to smoke Marlboro Reds, and they make your fingers really kind of stained, but I loved them so much. This was like high school and college, and then I stopped smoking because I'm also asthmatic, so it was really stupid.
And I love the way the asthmatic Cece
Takes a back seat. I was like, eh.
And your nickname used to be Wheeze when you were
Still
a child,
is,
by
yeah.
the way.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm anti-wheeze.
It took you precisely 35 seconds to evolve to the world of cigarettes, and
I found them calming for a long time.
Cool.
And then they stopped being calming, and it started being where you're anxious because you don't have one yet.
Yeah.
And you got to start your day with it. You got to start your morning with it. And then it's, when can I have one after I was in college? So after class, or when I was in high school, after school was out. And so it stops becoming an anxiety release. It starts becoming another thing you're anxious about, which was why, not the main reason I quit, but more just like health stuff. But yeah, but anyway, I guess I thought cigarettes were pretty cool and pretty posh.
Yeah.
Pretty posh. Even though they completely, like, by the time I was growing up, like, there were no advertisements for them. There were only advertisements against them. And those they still scare me when I see them on like public TV, those adverts they have, because they're very, they're convincing not to smoke anyway. So we go through phases.
Scary public health campaigns is that's another topic we'll have to address another time. But when
there's a lot of them.
When I was about just coming into my teenage years, the big public health campaign in those days was all about HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
And the realization that it was a very great danger to everyone, and not just other groups like people who were giving or receiving blood, but also it wasn't by any means just limited to any particular sexuality.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and okay, I'm looking at you now
And
because
what
we don't
yeah.
usually delve into the bedroom too much, but honestly, it's difficult to overstate how when I was that age, how condoms were seen as. I mean, honestly, condoms were seen and was as much of a prominent thing in one's psyche, almost as much as masks and vaccines are
Yeah,
with COVID.
now,
I mean,
yeah.
they were. You didn't go
They're
out.
the first line of defense, really, for you.
Yeah.
You know, to be
And that,
safe.
and as I say,
Yeah.
we don't want to go too far down that road, but that's changed. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, with your generation, with just attitudes and just listening to people talk, it's just not.
Well, and there were no.
It should be.
There were not as many drugs or as many advertisements for these drugs you see now for people with HIV or AIDS. But I
Yeah.
mean, they definitely were preached to us in school.
Yeah.
But they weren't given away. And my sex ed classes were in Virginia, so it was a lot of like.
Why are you grinning and blushing about all
Because
Virginia?
it was a lot of I don't know if they outright said celibacy, but it was very much like that. And the irony was, this was when I was in 8th grade, and our teacher, Miss Wolf, was pregnant,
Okay.
teaching this stuff. So it was so uncomfortable, and you know, I mean, like it wasn't as bad as I'm sure in other counties in that state or in other states, but you know, they pretty much said that's the only way that you can prevent these things 100%, which you know really bothers people,
Yeah.
of course, because it's not very realistic. But
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't get much out of it, that's for sure.
Crikey, we've been doing this podcast less than 10 minutes, and we've covered a lot already. We've gone from things you consider posh to public health information. They're going to haul us back on track.
Well, we'll have to do more of a Christmas one, but we were going to talk about traditions.
Yeah, we were, and again, when we talked about this, we realised how age came into this. For example, I've just thought of something. Here's a, you know, you can forget your Xbox, you can forget your iPhones. Oh, at the top of the high street, the town where I was brought up, when it came towards Christmas, Mum and Mum didn't drive, so she would walk home up the hills of Guildford, my hometown, very steep hills, carrying bags of shopping. So whenever I was on holiday from school or vacation, I would help her carry the shopping home. And on the way home, we would stop at this little post office that was part post office and part actually a Christian bookshop. But as it came towards Christmas, they had these little held together with a little paper tab, a little loop. They were you got about 100 little strips of paper with gum arabic, in other words, glue, at the end of each. And the idea was that you licked each end and looped them through and made paper chains, and which you then would put up on the walls.
Decorations.
I'm demonstrating it
Yeah.
with my hand, putting it up. That's how you put something up. This
Very
is why it's
accurate.
worth.
I would go like that.
Yeah, this is why it's worth
Hang
having
it.
this on
Hang
YouTube visually, because we couldn't do
So
the way
this was decorations.
this was decoration, and I said, Mum, it's 10th of December, because we used to wait till later. I mean,
Yeah.
in the States, you think as soon as it's Thanksgiving, that's 5 weeks of the holidays.
Especially
But
nowadays when you need some cheer, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like people decorate earlier now, just from.
Do you think?
Oh, definitely, because like colleagues and stuff that I know are like so quick to decorate for Halloween as soon as it's like almost appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially with shops pushing stuff at a certain time, you know, there's already Christmas stuff up before it's honestly like right after Halloween.
Oh,
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's,
no,
it's
you're
a real,
right.
I mean, it was Black Friday 2 days before Black Friday this year. I felt like, you know, so it's changed.
Yeah,
but,
you're right.
But go on. You made your paper, your rings, and I think I can visualize what they are.
Yeah,
like out
and
of,
so they made loops, and so
colored
they're
paper,
about
right?
you can make them as long as you like. you
Yeah.
know. And I mean, we're looping back, no pun intended, to our first subject, which is things that you considered not so much posh, but just exciting and exotic,
And special.
and making paper chains, and they cost 10 pence. That's about what, 12 cents, something like that.
Oh,
12 of
that's
your
sweet.
American cents.
It's not much American sense.
Yeah,
No.
but you see, you don't know what it's like to live in Arcady like that, to live in paradise, do you? I mean, with the 10-pence paper chains.
I have had people
You're stuck on
older
your
than
i12
me.
phone.
Yeah,
me.
yeah, absolutely. But people that were like criticizing. I was driving down a street when I was home in Virginia, and how I was commenting later how beautiful when I was driving down the Halloween decorations were. Huge ghosts, and like those inflatable structures that people put in their front yard that kind of wave around like in front of like a car dealership. Yeah. And witches and like big pumpkins, and then somebody sort of snarkily said, was like, oh, well, in my day we made all our decorations and it's ridiculous that people pay for them. And to me that idea is so abstract, because we never, maybe we would make some of our own Halloween decorations. Actually, we did, because me and my sisters used to make we used to take these like there were these little metal things you'd stick into the ground when you played golf. Or like petanque or something. And we would take pieces of white paper and kind of put dirty-ish looking blood. We'd make a tombstone on it. And we would write the names of the boys we didn't like in our classes in elementary school onto the pieces of paper as the names of the dead people in the yard.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, it was really bad. And our parents, they let us do it too. I don't think maybe they thought we made up the names, but anyway. We used to do that.
See, you've given me an idea. I could shape that up into a script, a 90-minute script, in a couple of days.
Probably boys we fancy that we just didn't know we liked.
So how about that you do that, and you're giggling with your friend, and then you have, let's say, 7 or 8 fluttering around someone, your little cemetery there.
A little graveyard, yeah.
And then in real life, they start to die off.
Yeah,
one by
that would
one.
be horrible.
How about that, ladies and gentlemen?
I think there is a story like that where there's a magic pen or something where whatever you write happens.
Oh, there's
lots of that.
Yeah, but not as good as mine.
No. Well, like they say, there's only 7 stories, right? Or every story's been done, but yeah.
Now, to those of you who are just listening, this won't mean much, but I have a special request from my wife, which is to do at least some of this podcast with my glasses on. Because she thinks I look professorial.
I like the professor.
Here we go. So I'm putting them on. And again, it's
see, and now you can see.
Captivating. But of course, what I like to do, and what I can do now, I'm putting them down over the bridge of my nose, and I can look over them and say...
I feel very judged.
And say, yes, Mrs. Capehart. Hang on, you wouldn't be Mrs. if you were a schoolgirl, would you? Okay, Miss Capehart, yes, I did want to see you. Sit down.
But I didn't go to a posh English school, so they would have just called me Cecilia. Flat out.
Well, you can play like you can do your posh English accent. Do your English accent.
I can't.
Oh, she's gone bashful.
I haven't.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to take my glasses off now, but they were a treat. You can barely see them actually.
Haven't. I'm sorry.
I haven't done it.
I haven't done it.
You're doing your EastEnders voice, darling, aren't you? Look, we've got to carry on with this podcast, right? But when we're done, we can have some special time. Just you and me. What do you think of it?
I think it's nice.
Really? Would it be alright if I brought Karen along? I've been seeing her for
okay, very good.
6 minutes now. She's special to me.
Okay, next topic. So... some good play acting though.
Sorry about that.
Good.
What was next? Well, we began to talk about Christmas traditions. Oh yeah, I know what it was.
We want to do a different
I know
one
what it was.
Oh yeah.
Bad gifts. What was the thing about gifts?
Bad gifts. Yeah. So one year I was super broke, and I just bought most everything for my family from the Dollar Tree. But the art of doing this is that you have to find things that look like they would come from someplace else, and it's very hard to do. And I think I got a few other things, like I got some DVDs, like, very cheap and things like that. But, it's like people opening it up going, oh, Curly Sue, what a great film. Thank you so much. I'm like, because your hair's curly and I got it for you. Like,
But I think they guessed when the cards you got from the dollar store were Easter cards.
yeah, and there's a $1 mark on everything that they
Right.
got.
That's why they were dollars. Too late for Easter. And
But what about best gifts you've ever gotten?
Well, you haven't let me do my bad gifts.
Oh yeah, give me your bad gifts.
Well, actually, it's not so much a bad gift. This is just I'm racked with guilt.
Oh.
Because when my dad he took a long break from what he started as, which was a journalist and a couple of professions close to that, like PR and things. But he took an 8-year break and he ran an antique store, which I think I've mentioned before. But when I was a kid, for some reason, I went through a phase of stealing money from the float, from the store, from my parents. And I remember once I went to in Guildford, the street that runs parallel to the main street, the high street, as we call it, was called North Street. And there was a store. It wasn't quite a dollar store, or a pound shop, to convert it. It wasn't quite that, but it was similar. And I remember buying a little corrugated cardboard pack of about 6 liqueur glasses or sherry glasses, and they were only £1 for all of them. They were like moulded glass, but
Yeah,
they worked, in fact they worked better
it sounds
in terms
lovely.
of function,
Yeah.
because you could put them in the dishwasher and
Yeah.
it didn't matter. And I gave them to my parents with money that I'd stolen from
Robbing
them.
Peter to pay Paul. Right?
Yeah, and I went through years of guilt and agony until tearfully I finally confessed. And by then, I mean, I did the stealing when I was 12 or 13. I confessed when I was 48. No, I didn't. No, I was about 16 or 17, I think, maybe a bit younger.
That's a sign of a good conscience that you felt the need
Yeah,
to confess.
and to this day, I don't know why. I mean, I wasn't angry with them. I wasn't angry with them having the antique store.
Adolescence, we just don't
school, school, like it was for you, was a bit of a challenge for me.
School sucks.
Yeah, well, I was, I think we've said before that it was the kind of school that there was a school to prepare you for entry to this school, called a preparatory school, conveniently enough. And I
Prep
didn't go, prep school, thank you. And I didn't go to one of those, I just went to a regular.
So you're sort of thrown in.
So I was thrown
in the
in
lion's
to
den.
boys who who had.
And I mean, I think you did wonderfully. I think it's very interesting to see, especially because you were going to school, in the 70s and 80s.
I was a little boy in the 70s.
But I was going to school in the 2000s, and the amount of work you had to do, which was all handwritten and no Scantron, and just, it's a lot more work than we had to do. A lot of my education was picking from a choice of 4 what the right answer was. So the right answer is right there. And so if you'd done even a little bit, and you could maintain your studying if you had studied, which I never did. But I mean, I sometimes did, but it was a lot. It was a lot more challenging. I mean, so you did as well as you could do.
Yeah, but like you say, it was it was a different system, and it feels like a different world. Yeah. And what's so funny is that I mean, we've had a laugh for the last 20 minutes, but going back to the age gap theme, something that comes up for various reasons in conversation is the fact that this is my second marriage, and I see it as as I think is proper, as being in just like starting. I had a wonderful first marriage, but this is like starting again with hopefully all the prospects and the various potential of a marriage that you'd expect. But what brings home the age gap to me is I finally got around after 18 years this weekend to seeing the film Love Actually, that was made in 2003, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And
it came out then, yeah.
Yeah, and so when that came out, I was, quick bit of math, crikey, how old would I have been?
20 years ago, it's like 30
About 35, something like that.
Yeah.
And you said that you watched it soon after
I think I was
it came out.
7 or 8.
She
I don't know when I was allowed to watch
She
it,
was
but
7.
I
And I was
can
in my
remember
mid-30s. I was like,
loving
oh,
it,
crikey.
and huge crush on Alan Rickman. He was in it. Hugh Grant, Colin Firth, and it was such a trip watching it with you because it was like full circle for me.
Well,
You know, I wouldn't have dreamed that I would be married to someone like you. You know, so handsome and so English. So
shucks.
that's not all you are, but that was a big moment for me. And I just knew that you would love it. And it's so funny. And I know so many people that watch that movie, not just for the holiday, but it's just a good movie.
Yeah.
It's just a lovely story, and
It
the
is.
scenes in the airport, Heathrow, which I've not been to yet, but I hope to go to someday.
Yeah.
It's just so
The
fabulous.
audiences liked it more than the critics did.
And that to me means more anyway. I so
Yeah.
rarely. You're more into reviews. I never read many reviews because I just love going and enjoying it. But sometimes the only time I like to read reviews is when I really don't like a movie, and I'm like, why did everyone else tell me to go see this? You know, why did this get nominated or whatever? You know, so just so you can feel like your opinion is a bit validated. But you read reviews in a more wholesome way. I feel like just to get a sense of what other people think.
Yeah, I try and read them at arm's length.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't take them that seriously. But, you know, when we just going back for a second to the thing that you saw it when you were not even in double digits of age, it increased this feeling that I get of time travel. I mean, it's just, we've said before on the podcast that in a way, it's really creepy to think about things like you being 7 or 8 watching
At that point, yes.
Yeah,
before
when
you're
I was
an
in my
adult.
30s.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it does sound odd.
but aside, leaving that icky side of it, you know, for a moment, it just feels. I feel almost like, I don't know, Doctor Who or someone, because it's it is a big age gap. But then, and again, maybe this is something that comes up quite frequently between us, is that and if anyone were to come to us for, not that they're likely to, but if anyone were to come to us for advice about being in an age gap relationship, I would say that there's a very fine line between being conscious of it, especially in the early years. I mean, we've been together almost exactly 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
December 24th.
Yeah, so we're still, I think, putting us in that category of just emerging from the first flush of getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But I'd say there's a fine line between being conscious of it and how it can inform the lighter things that we've been talking about, and also more substantial areas. Between that and not becoming too obsessed with the age factor.
Yeah.
Because really, the people I've known personally who have split up in age gaps relationship have said it was nothing to do with age.
Yeah, and I mean,
it was to do with something else in the relationship.
Yeah.
So it's important not to get too obsessed, because otherwise
it kind of robs you of what else is going on, because people really are just people, especially once you get older. It doesn't really matter as much, I don't think, the age that you are. Whether you're younger or older than your partner, I think that starts to really fade. And that's the great thing about getting older, is because we become more equal, and
you're right.
more independent.
And also, I know that one of the traditional perils of being, for example, the older party in the relationship is that you can start to, if you concentrate too much on the age difference, you can start to feel like, in my case, like an old man, if you keep harping on it. I don't, because I think that's an area I try and treat with good humor and perspective. Yeah. But it is easy to think like that. Yeah. It is easy to think that of all these things we've covered in the last we've been talking about half an hour now. Yeah. Things like smoking, HIV, newspapers. Because you said to me when we didn't do more than 2 minutes preparation for this audition, because we wanted to make it at least halfway spontaneous.
Yeah.
But you said to me that you've never read held
Not
in your
back to
hands
front.
a newspaper.
Oh,
a
I've
full
held
newspaper.
it in my hands.
Yeah, but you haven't
I've-
read it back to front. Now,
No.
you read the news
No.
a lot, and you keep.
I
in
do. I
touch.
read the news on my phone, but
From-
the only time there were ever newspapers were when I was living with my parents and growing up, and there were always newspapers in the house. And it actually
Yeah.
kind of irritate me sometimes because there were so many. But I mean, my parents, they love to read them and they're extremely well read. And you know what? I was really lucky because, you know, it was like the Washington Post and the New York Times in the house. And I mean, I think there's this sort of mentality, I think, when you do get the newspaper. Like, there's a great picture of in 2008 when Obama was elected. We walked to the inauguration
That's
from
right.
Arlington, Virginia to DC because everything was shut down. You couldn't get there unless on your feet. So we got to see him inaugurated in
The
2008.
weather wasn't good, right?
No,
You
it was
said-
the coldest, one of the coldest days one of the coldest I've been in my life, for sure.
What was it
But-
like being on that walk?
Oh, it
in
was
a historic sense?
it was amazing. And I can remember my mom taking a picture of me and my sisters with our newspaper, with the newspaper of him after he had won. It was such a big deal. I mean, and you know, I grew up in a very, very liberal part of Northern Virginia, so which is very liberal, but so everyone wanted him to win. They were so excited.
Right.
I mean, this is a place where when Bush won for the second time, everyone wore black. Like the teachers, everyone wore black the next day. So it was amazing. And it was really cool that we were able to do that. And it was like history in the making. It really was. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember Michelle Obama wore a thin, beautiful yellow coat with a yellow matching skirt, probably like Chanel or something. And didn't seem cold at all. And we were like standing up there shivering, like she must have heaters in those clothes or something. I mean, she must have, because she didn't wear a coat. And you know, it's a point of pride, especially American presidents. They don't like to look really bundled up, right? They like to have like that slim coat on, if anything. So, you know, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
should
like
we,
me to do this podcast today. I wanted to wear a duffel
a
coat,
big puffy coat,
a barber jacket over that, and 2 hats. But she said, "No, you look too bulky like that."
Yeah, but
And
I
she
think
said, "Strip off."
I think it's a good stopping point, that historic day. And
A stopping point in the podcast for
Yeah.
today, do you think?
I do, yeah.
I was just getting warmed up.
But a half hour is nice and
Has it
clean
been a
and
half
cut.
hour
It
even?
has, yes.
Oh, well,
And we'll do another Christmas one.
yeah, we're going to come back. As we
We
say,
might even be in costume, maybe one of us. So
yeah. Maybe we're not sure if we'll do the next episode on video. So
yeah,
write and tell us
things you
what
like.
you
Yeah.
think, if you like our being on video. Someone, I think I before we signed off in the months ago now,
Yeah.
someone said to us that the reason they wanted to be able to see us was a really interesting reason. They said, I think they imagined, especially when we're talking about things to do more with our relationship, the serious side, they wanted to see what eye contact we made, what our body language was like,
yeah.
and so on. Because
Body language
otherwise,
expert, no.
what was that, body
I
language?
said a body
Yeah.
language expert, you
Yeah.
know, to read into it.
And
Yeah.
I knew what they meant.
Well, I think that, yeah, I agree. I'm a very visual person. I love watching. Even podcasts that I listen to, I love it when the podcaster does a film version, because I
Yeah.
really enjoy seeing the facial expressions, just like this person wrote in. So
Yeah.
kudos to them. That makes sense.
And you know what? Before we sign off, on wherever with the page wherever you went to for this podcast, the information I'm about to give should be available there too. But I want to give the viewers and listeners our email address.
Sure.
And it's been so long that I want to get it right. So I'm just going to reach for my phone,
Yeah.
and I'm going to look. I've got my professor's spectacles
I
on
know.
again
I noticed.
as I do this. I'm going to look this up.
It's Gmail. I
Live.
think.
Yeah, it is Gmail, but I want to get the address exactly right, if you don't mind.
Lord.
Hang on. So, over to you. You have to talk to them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess one thing I'll say is that whenever I'm looking up my Gmail addresses, it's very overwhelming because I have about 12 of them, because I
Yes,
kept
it does.
making free 1 month subscriptions to Hulu and other streaming services. So I just kept on making new emails to try and trick those streaming services. But now I do proudly pay for them. But this was a different time when that wasn't really something I was willing to do. So
Yeah. You do have a lot of addresses.
I do. I have like a dozen Gmail addresses, and it's actually very confusing. And now that I have a work email address, I worry about, you send out an email or something and or asking about an order or whatever, and I'm like, am I checking all the ones that I would have sent it out to, and am I doing that correctly? Because I hate missing those types of things. It's half the reason I got rid of my Facebook, because I just kept missing stuff, and missing people, which I really don't like. Like people think you're ignoring them. And
but when we've found this, write to us with anything on any of the topics we've talked about. Things you considered posh as a child and still do. Christmas
holiday
traditions,
traditions,
terrible gifts.
I must have gotten everyone like mugs and, oh Lord, gloves probably. That's okay if they're.
Did you do that
quality.
thing where you opened anything on Christmas Eve?
Mm-hmm. We could choose one to open.
Because that's very German.
Oh yeah, well I am German, so.
And Brits, we tend not to.
Seems about right. Repressed.
Yeah. Well, I give up.
It?
But the email address.
We'll add it to the bottom of this video.
Yeah. And if not, it'll be on the page that wherever you found us. It's a Gmail address.
Yeah. And thanks for listening. Until next time.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Tell us what you thought of this experiment. Anything to do with being in an age gap relationship. Any questions you have that we can try to answer, please get in touch. And we will see you next time. In the meantime, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And wherever you are, please, still as hackneyed as it is, stay safe.
Yep.
See you next time.
Bye.